For example, here is a testing paradox. I don't know how many of you would have faced this, but there are many instances where you have a control group, that is a group where you don't have any kind of advertising at all, and there is a test group to whom you're actually advertising or emailing or mailing information. Sometimes what happens is that the control group tends to have better response rates than the tested, and you wonder, I didn't even send them a direct mail or an email, but they seem to be responding better. Now you need to understand why that is happening, and the traditional methods allow us to look at test and control in a very watertight, compartmentalized way, and that doesn't give you enough insight. So the main thing is to start looking at the analytics that you're applying to see who are those people who are likely to respond if you market to. There are some people who would anyway come back to you or come to you. And so identifying the persuadables, not the sure shots, become an important consideration. And how do you apply analytics to identify who are the persuadables? Similarly, you may want to look at retaining people. Who are those people who churn anyway, and who are those people who you can actually influence to not churn through marketing? So that becomes another form of applying analytics to derive insights. There could be another case where you really want to see where is the opportunity. Here is an example where VeriSign, which has .com extensions for registering your websites, also came up with .net and many other custom domains. Today you can have a .kumar, you can have a .imc, you can have a .restaurant, .dentist, any kind of website extensions. Now they were trying to see how they can actually get to new website with their domain .net, because they felt that these custom domains can take away a lot of their market. Now they initially thought it could be the small businesses, which is people, organizations with 1 to 5 employees or organizations with 6 to 25 employees. And they were really focusing on that. But then if you really think about a large audience, the first insight when you really think about who is actually creating new websites are the people who are not big. They are the small office, home office guys. And that is a large number. Very simple data from census allows you to look at the sizes of those numbers as 10 times bigger than the small businesses. And they're also growing at a fast rate. If you look at the decadal growth of small office, home office, you've got a large number of small offices and home offices coming up. And they're not the soap makers, they have a lot of texture. There are people who are into laundry services, there are people into beauty services, there are different types of services that are being offered by the small office, home office. All of a sudden, your market changed, your target changed, your communication changed. And that is how you take an insight, you try and arrive at an insight or derive an insight out of common data, an uncommon insight, and apply it to see how you can market this better. Again, opportunity sizing and other things flow from this kind of an exercise. Culture. There are many ways in which you can talk about multicultural society in the country. You can look at the census and try and look at numbers in the census and say, oh, these ethnic groups are growing, this is what's happening within the demographic. But you can also look at culture in a very different way, and by looking at the number of words in English that have been added to the dictionary. And then you see that that's a different dimension that you're coming up with. Or the kind of TV shows that we are watching today, the casting in the TV shows. And in this case, what we did as an example is look at cinnamon. Cinnamon, incidentally, which is a fact, is imported to this country. 99.5% of cinnamon is imported cinnamon to this country. So it becomes a very good base, and you can layer on top of that how much avocado is being brought in, how much chickpeas is brought in. All of a sudden, you're amplifying this simple insight, which you could have proven with only demographic data, that cultural shift is happening in the country, in the complexion of the country, by giving such examples of words in English, the way we eat food, what kind of ingredients are going into the food, and things like that. So you are dimensionalizing one thing with fact and factoids, but there is a clear insight here that people are consuming different types of food and ingredients. And another area is behavior science. And there are several tenets of behavioral economics that can be applied to see why people behave in a particular way. For example, the way you emote at a 10% discount for a $100 product versus the way you emote when I say it is $10 off on a $100 product can be very different, because you look at the absolute value, you look at the relative number. And you can apply it in many different ways. For example, here is a smiley and a brownie and a frowny for your action on the road. If you go fast on the road, there are experimental evidence that you can see that if you have a frowny when you have gone very fast, it is a social castigation. You know, you're seeing that in public. If you have a smiley, you feel good, and so you tend to drive slow. Okay. You could also think about data and technology, which is applied, and I've got a couple of examples here. One, I hope plays here, let's see. Okay, have you seen this? British Airways? Okay, what they've done is they've looked at the one problem that they were trying to solve was people did not know that British Airways flew into multiple destinations. And on a billboard, the fundamental insight for them was there are flights flying over, planes flying over the billboard. How can you use that to tell people the number of destinations that they're flying into? So it's a very simple way in which they approach this. I hope you get that. The idea here is using data and technology, you can link up what flight is there at that time, and you're making sure that people get it. Yeah, because when they look at the billboard, they get to see it. So, and there are many other examples of how you can use data and technology. So this is the whole idea. We're trying to define an insight in a context, learn how we can attack the context to distill insights in different ways. Experimentally, through some frameworks, we will talk about a few frameworks in class, and behavioral science and other applications of theory. But do that all in class in exercises, at least to come up with a few ways in which you can interrogate data, whether it is structured data or unstructured data. There's a lot of social data today, which is images, text, audio, video. How do we kind of mine all those, at least approaches and some tools to mine these? That's what we're going to cover in this class. Yeah.